All right, I'm Chris.
And I'm Wendy.
And this is Creatures of the Night.
It's a podcast.
That's right.
It's not just two girls babbling. We hope it's a podcast where everybody listens and enjoys and contacts us, telling us their stories as well.
But it could also be just two girls sitting here babbling because...
Well, technically that's what it is. Hey, I finished some 3-year-old evidence. I did that.
Did you?
Yep. I finished watching us sleep for 6 hours at the Lemp Mansion.
Yeah. And you caught...
Nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing happened. I got so damn excited every time somebody get up to pee. I was like, oh, there is movement.
Well, at the Lemp, we had 2 nights.
Yes. So I actually have another night to still watch. But apparently we got a lot less sleep on that night because it's only a 3.5, 4 hour video. Yeah, so I'm super excited about the lack of sleep that we had on that evening.
I remember both of the nights that we were there at the Lemp being super eventful and hella fun. Like, just the people that also stayed in the hotel with us, everyone was super open and easygoing and just a joy to really have with us. Well, except for that one lady that flipped her shit and bailed on the first night.
She was still very nice.
She was super nice. It was just when she bailed and and the people at the Lemp were like, make sure, if you have to leave, that you lock the door. She pieced out. She left the doors unlocked, and we're like, what the hell just happened?
She tried to leave out the door that you can't get out at a certain, once they close the restaurant down, that front door is locked. You have to go out the back door. And she was so I've got to get out of here. That while her friends are distracted with us in the parlor and stuff, she's like, perfect timing. I'm leaving.
Well, everything was happening at that exact moment. That was such a weird moment for her to be like, I gotta go.
That woman had lost her husband, couldn't find where he was at. She didn't lose him, but he was in a trance down in the basement, or he just was trying to get away from people. I'm not sure, but he had been down there for quite some time that she got concerned. She didn't know where he was, and then you got scratched.
Yeah.
That woman tried to walk out the door, and then you said you just got scratched, but she couldn't get out that door. They had to walk her out the other door.
The meters were going off, and I had one of her buddies, and then, I had a couple of her buddies with me at that same time because we were using the meters. The meters were going crazy, and I couldn't understand, why are these stupid meters? My meter never goes off, and it was going crazy, and your meter was going off, and then I get scratched. She's trying to bounce. This other lady's like, where's my husband? It was just all at once. That was the first night we were there. The second night, we had the girls from Missouri who were celebrating their birthday along with Wendy. They were so chill and so relaxed, and we got to investigate every level of the mansion without any serious craziness happening like we had the first night. It was just, I'm not going to say even keel, but there was some stuff happening. It's just that wasn't as all of a sudden there was an energy burst, and that's what happened the first night. Everybody was affected.
It was just energy overload.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, and then kind of just dissipated and died down. The next night with the other girls, we got a loud voice in the hallway that we heard with our own ears. This wasn't playback on anything. But remember, we also heard somebody down in the basement area. We're we're going to go check out the basement area. And then we start to go down the steps, and it's you could hear talking. So we got really nervous. There's 2 other doors down there. Have the kitchen workers not left all the way? Or who the fuck is in this basement,
Did you get that feeling, though, too? As soon as we started heading down there, it was you shouldn't be down here.
Yes. I got the same feeling that it's a real person.
Yeah.
And I don't get the sense that it's a person that's supposed to be here. Whether they were supposed to leave hours ago, they actually do work there though, but they are not supposed to be there that late. You got a sense of we heard voices. You immediately were concerned.
Yeah.
And usually you hear voices and you're like, oh my gosh, did you hear that?
Yeah, right.
So, if it's a ghost, you're like, that's exciting.
Right.
But you're like, these are voices. I don't feel like they belong. And we called down to it before entering.
We did.
And let them know we're coming, said some stuff or whatever to try to protect ourselves. And it went dead silent. And then we checked one of the doors down there, and it wasn't locked,
it wasn't
right?
Locked.
The door that goes out the front of the building all the doors were shut and everything, but it wasn't locked.
Yeah, that was super creepy.
And you don't think about that when you're in these B&Bs and stuff. stuff. Like when we stayed in the Myrtles or whatever, and we were talking about they can't shut that gate, so that gate's open all the time. So anybody could just drive up here in the middle of the night because there's no like security guard walking around, and they can walk the grounds just like we're walking the grounds.
Right.
Now, all the doors leading to like rooms and stuff are locked, but you could be out wandering in the woods
Like we were.
looking for spirit, and all of a sudden, Joe Schmo
Right.
is out there too, or a murderer Joe, or whatever.
Right.
So you don't think about that, and because you expect all the doors are locked because there's a restaurant at the Lemp Mansion, and we assumed that they locked all the appropriate doors. We're supposed to leave that back door unlocked as well, and only we have keys. So it was kind of scary, yet we just went right to sleep. Like hours later, but
I think that it helped us come back to reality because we were in such a big group, and those women that were with us from Missouri also had like their boyfriends, fiance, husbands. I'm not really sure, but they were with them too. So, there was more of us at the time than whatever we had heard going down there. And I think that we had scared it off. It was a scary situation for us to be in when we didn't expect it. Like Wendy said, if you're at a place that you paid to stay at, you expect at least some level of security. And that was one of those situations where we really weren't secure. I mean, I'm not going to badmouth the Lemp. That place was amazing. And so were the people that we worked with, people that didn't poison me with their food. They were awesome. But it's just a human error.
But they also had cameras
everywhere.
They're supposed to have, from what we understood, they had surveillance cameras all over the place. So we don't really know what happened, and we never contacted them afterwards and I don't know if they would admit it to us. Yeah, there was an intruder, but you scared them off.
Right.
Thanks. So I don't know what was going on.
Do you remember not when we first got there, because when we first got there, we went to the cemetery, but shortly after that, we went and visited the plant, the Lemp Mansion, the brewery area. Remember in the parking lot where we were, and those guys came up to us, and they were in a Camaro, some kind of a black car.
Were they not asking us to go somewhere?
They were, and that's why we decided to not go anywhere in the town that night. We were we're just going to stay right here in the Lemp where everything's safe. We're not, no. They were trying to say that they could get us into the brewery or something like that. They knew somebody.
I thought they said something about filming or something like that too. That they're filming over in the building or whatever. If we want to go over there with them and that we can be on film or something like that. And I'm yeah, that's how you get murdered.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I think I even told the guy what? No.
Right.
I don't know though. I would really suspect that whoever was in the basement, I just don't think it was an intruder necessarily. I think it was an employee that was sneaking back in to get something, or didn't leave on time or something like that. Because how did they get in there in the first place? I'm sure they locked that front door when they left, the restaurant people, and that other door. So how would they miss that one door? I feel like it's probably somebody that worked there.
What's weird though? We didn't hear a door. Either time we didn't hear a door. So either they know how to be slick with it. I mean, I know from sneaking in and out of my parents' house how to shut that door just right so nobody can hear. So either they do it often enough so that we wouldn't hear them, or maybe it was paranormal and just the fact that the door had been left open was coincidence.
Yeah, there is that too. There is extremely that, because we were so close.
We were.
That if that door, we should have heard noise from that door. They're decently heavy doors.
They are heavy doors.
Yeah, upstairs for sure was.
Yeah.
So both those doors were pretty rough to
right?
open and shut and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because I remember we had to get through there with our luggage and
everything.
Right.
It was fun. Oh, I missed
and
the
the
Lemp.
narrow ass steps.
Yeah, they were tiny.
Somebody helped us.
Yeah.
That was a cool place. But the Lemp was a good experience, compared to our last experience at a sleepover at a B&B type thing. The Lemp was just magic. All the people were there for the same reason. We had the run of the place.
Yes.
Which was not the case at the Myrtles. I had a great time at the Myrtles. It was great. But the fact that the place was on serious lockdown, was just, a bit like, oh, okay. But at the Lemp Mansion, it was like, yeah, we'd appreciate it if you don't go in the bar. Totally win the bar. They both nights.
Yeah.
So it's not like they watched surveillance the first night we were there and they were like, we need to go tell these chicks to stay out of the bar. No, they were just like, they didn't break anything or try to drink anything. So we're good. That place was super cool. How they just kind of left the house to you. The Lizzie Borden place is like that too. Just for anybody looking for haunted places, Lizzie Borden, Lemp Mansion, give you the run of the place.
Yeah.
The Myrtles Plantation, be picky about what room you pick.
Be very
that
choosy.
May be the only space you get.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for places to go and you don't have the budget to rent out the whole place, then the Lemp and the Lizzie Borden is a good spot. I mean, if you don't end up with a good crowd, it's always going to ruin it for you. Just like the Myrtles could be amazing if everybody was on the same page. But we were really lucky. The nights that we spent at those two places, for sure, we had good experiences with the crowd and letting us just roam the whole place. I was just thinking the other day, like, man, we had to have been so loud in the Lizzie Borden because that's the thing. I don't remember trying to whisper or anything when we were at Lizzie Borden's, and the rooms are so close together.
They are, yeah.
That we were in that one person's room and there were a whole family of people in the next room that had went to bed hours before, and they were super quiet in there.
Oh, yeah.
And I just thought, gosh, I was thinking, I wasn't thinking then, I was thinking the other day, like, gosh, I hope we weren't keeping them up.
But you know what? They were all so cool. And even the people that went to sleep. So they weren't so much interested in the Ouija board stuff that we were doing earlier in the evening, but they seemed to be cool with, not all of them, but I think the people that went to bed, I think that those guys were the ones that weren't interested in the Ouija board. But the next day, as we were leaving, like, everyone was sitting around the table eating breakfast, and everyone was super like, here's the ghost hunters again. Let's talk to them. What'd you find? We can't wait to see your evidence. Like, everyone was so super chill and excited about the whole ordeal.
I don't think they hated us. So I think they were like, we understand what everyone is here for. And I need to go to sleep. I haven't had enough caffeine. So, I'm going to go. It's like falling asleep at a slumber party. You can't hate other people for staying up and having a good time. And they definitely had that mentality. So they were real cool about it. You didn't hear complaints at the Lemp Mansion for the couple of rooms that didn't partake and roam in the house at the middle of the night. They didn't make complaints either. So that's really cool.
Not at all. Matter of fact, some of the girls that we had investigated the Lemp with are still friends with us to this day, even though we haven't finished our review of that case.
Well, no, legit. I only have 4 hours left of that place, and then I have reviewed every single bit of evidence, and that's it. And you got a cool photo from that place too.
I did.
That green ghost coming out of the wall, that is a cool ass photo.
Oh, yes, that's right.
You're like, people are going to question it because it's out of focus. No, that's a fucking ghost.
That's a weird one.
That's a dude coming through the walls. That was a good photo. So let me tell you a story. I'm just going to pre-warn you. I didn't want to, but it's going to go all over the place. But follow me. I feel like it comes all together and maybe even kind of correlate with what we were just talking about at the Lemp Mansion and Lizzie Borden and stuff. Not like that, but just calm down. Let me tell the story.
All right. I'm calm.
So the story begins in 1976 in St. Clair, Pennsylvania. Pharmacist David Buchanan purchased a former Odd Fellows lodge next to his shop. During the renovations of the lodge, contractors found a mahogany coffin beneath a false floor in the closet on the second level with just a full body of a skeleton inside.
That's insane.
No big deal.
Hello.
Under that false floor.
Wow.
Like, how do you even figure that out?
Well, yeah, was he renovating?
Yeah, he was renovating. His shop was next to this lodge, and then he wanted to expand, I'm assuming. So he bought the lodge, and he's trying to expand by doing renovation. And then the contractors are like, look at this shit we found.
Whoa.
This coffin, and it's got a skeleton inside. So on the coffin was symbols of 3 rings linked together, which they kind of all talked about or discussed or figured figured out or already knew that was a common symbol of the Odd Fellows Fraternity.
Interesting.
So it seems like Buchanan just chose to not really investigate the remains of this skeleton, whether they were fake or real or who they were. He didn't seem to care. So he displayed this skeleton in his store window.
No!
Just for funsies.
What?
No big deal. And then eventually he was like, I'm done with that. I want a new look. And he moved the skeleton into storage.
Stop
Not
it.
That for that story.
He put this dead guy's skeleton in his storefront window as a way to display what? Were they cards? What was he selling? I have to know. Was it like paper goods?
Well, he's a pharmacist, so I guess he's helped.
Wait. Toilet paper.
It's educational.
It's a skeleton holding like toilet paper in one hand.
Cough syrup.
Cough syrup in the other hand. Some poor dead guy skeleton.
Yeah. Or girl.
Okay.
Dead girl. What he doesn't know. Buchanan didn't really care, but I guess eventually he didn't care about having this look anymore. Or maybe somebody told them, "Hey, David, that's kind of weird. You should
His
stop
wife."
that." And so he moved it into storage. She probably did not go for it. So he moved it into storage, and that's the end of that story. In 1982, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a lady named Marilyn Wick owned a chain of costume shops, and so she bought inventory off of a local business that had costumes and Halloween props or whatever.
Spirit.
She bought the entire inventory of this business, and then as her people and herself are digging through the inventory to see what they could resell and whatnot, they find a glass-topped coffin that appeared to have a mummified body inside.
No.
It had dry, tattered skin on it, and Wick was like, no.
Yeah.
She calls up the family doctor, and she's like, come check this out for me, please. And the family doctor is like, don't worry. It's fake. It's not real. You're good. So she's like, cool. Because this would actually make a really good item for my shop. So she puts it into her store window. And she also puts a for rent sign on it.
No.
For parties and stuff.
Wow.
So an off-duty police officer is cruising by one day, and this catches his eye. And he's like, that doesn't seem right. So he tells his police department, and they have it removed for examination by the county coroner.
Wow, thank God this cop came driving by.
And is like, that doesn't seem right. So the county coroner is like, yeah, the skin is fake. It's not mummified, but the bones are legit. They are a real human being that has fake skin put on it. So Marilyn Wick, the owner of the costume shop and of the skeleton, calls up the former owner, the guy she bought the inventory from, and she's like, what the fuck, man? How did you get this human body? And he goes, oh yeah. I totally knew that was real human remains. Like, I bought it off somebody else, and me and a buddy just kind of assumed that it came from this old Odd Fellows lodge that had closed down. So, I think that's where it came from. And he's like, the fake skin, though, let me tell you about that. In 1977, the director of Dawn of the Dead was in town, and I rented the skeleton out for him, and they put that fake skin on it. So this one is famous, this skeleton. So the skin is made from like a latex cotton Rice Krispie treat mix that the props director of the movie set put on it, and you can actually see in one of the scenes, this is a skeleton that's like in the background. So that earns the skeleton the name of Dawn Doe instead of Jane Doe. And Marilyn fights with the city because now the county coroner's office has this body and they're going to just incinerate it, But she fights with them to get the skeleton, Dawn Doe, try to get her a proper burial. Eventually, Wick wins, and the city buries her in the local cemetery on March 19th, 1983. I was 5 days old. Little baby. In 1999, in Bellevue, Idaho, an Oddfellows skeleton was found in the drawer of a built-in wardrobe of the closed Bellevue Oddfellows Lodge. Locals say that they remember when the Oddfellows were there using the lodge, that they used to hang a skeleton in the window during Halloween.
What's wrong with these people?
And so they're like, that's weird. So they contacted a old member. He was 92 years old when they asked him about this, an old Oddfellows member, and asked him, what's up with this skeleton? And he's like, oh yeah, that's the skeleton we hung in the window. It's the remains of a Chinese
Oh
man
my God.
that had died. No, I'm sorry. He died, yes. But he drowned in the nearby river, and then his body was washed up. Birds picked it clean.
Whoa.
And then he was sold or just given to the lodge. Don't really know. They just got that body.
No records. So they just, whatever.
This old member of the Odd Fellows fraternity knew that it was a Chinese man. He drowned in the river and that birds picked his body clean. But he couldn't remember if they bought him or if he was just given to the lodge.
Wow. They acquired him.
Yeah, he had no name or nothing. Just,
whoa.
I can't imagine how this conversation went down. So come to 2001 in Warrenton, Virginia. An electrician was working on an Odd Fellows lodge when he discovered a box containing human remains in a space between two walls. It was also found with ceremonial white candles. They called her Jane Doe Oddfellow, and she was turned over to the police.
Oh, I love the Odd Fellows. But you know what? Finding boxes of bones in the walls. Why in the walls?
Why hiding? If you didn't do anything wrong, why are they between two walls or under false floors?
In the drawers? I just don't understand.
And also, in some of these that I've seen, they're like minorities, and they have no record of who they are, which is just like, did just nobody care? And that's why it was okay.
That's really twisted.
So, 2003 in Houston, Missouri.
Oh, thanks for clarifying.
I know. It was like weird. I hate when that happens. This one's funny to me. A child's competitive cheerleading team needed a place to practice, so the parents rented an old Oddfellows lodge downtown. While the children are practicing, the parents just roam around the building, and they just happen to find 3 coffins in the building.
No kidding.
Why not? I love these parents. One of the coffins contained a plastic skeleton. Okay, we're good. What's in door number 2? It's a ceramic-like torso painted to look like an embalmed corpse. Okay, so it's not real. Okay, good. Third one, in a childlike coffin. Yeah, it's totally a real skeleton.
I wouldn't have even gone in the one that was child size. I'm sorry. That would have been like, nope, that one I'm not going to touch. Were they all child size? Yeah. They weren't all child size. It's just that one.
Nope. Yeah, that's how they tell the story, at least. This one was childlike. It contained a white cloth mask and real bones held together with black twine.
Whoa.
The county coroner was called in to take a look, and he believed the bones were of an elderly person. There were no signs of trauma, and it showed signs that it had possibly once been buried.
Oh, somebody grave robbed that.
That's weird.
Yeah,
that's not legal.
Definitely not.
So there's a couple of reports in like 2011, but they're boring. So it's just kind of like, yeah, we found some bones and they're real. Turned them over to the police. That's it.
All right.
In 2013, in Council Bluff, Iowa, our favorite state.
I know. Iowa. Damn.
This one's great. Authorities had to question a man, a 5th generation Oddfellow. He's an active member. When they spotted an ad on Craigslist asking for $12,000 for a late 1800 or early 1900 oak coffin with a skeleton inside. Bonus.
Oh my God.
Well, he was in charge of the local lodge that wasn't active with members necessarily, but he was trying to cover the property taxes on the building to keep it open.
Wow.
And under the Oddfellows management, I guess you would say. And so the Iowa police officers had to inform him that without proper identification, which he did not have for his skeleton, it's illegal to sell human remains. So negative, sir. You can't do that.
But wait, all he needed was proper identification of the remains and then it was okay?
Yeah.
Oh. It's like a title of the car, right?
Yeah.
As long as you've got this guy's identification, you can just go ahead. Wow. Iowa.
Yeah. Well, I'm proud of them for not letting you just sell random bones, you know? At least include a driver's license or something. I would hope that they have to kind of prove how they acquired the body to begin with, because it doesn't seem like any of these Odd Fellows lodges ever did that. So
No.
So then in 2015 in Oklahoma, sometime after moving into their new home, a family discovered a skeleton in a coffin in their barn.
Whoa. Oklahoma. I'm surprised the tornadoes didn't take that barn away.
Yeah.
Damn.
Can you imagine just trying to get settled in? You're like, oh, I got to clean out this barn and start putting my stuff in here. And then it's like, what's that box? That's weird.
It's that box.
That's like a coffin. Can't be, right? Oh my gosh. Taking the lid off of that thing would just be like, bleh.
Oh, man. Creep out.
Like somebody left their family member behind or murdered someone. And then come to find out, the police, they contact the police and the police contact the previous owner. And the previous owner is like, oh, yeah, I got 2 skeletons from the local Odd Fellows Lodge that closed back in 1960. Now, remember, this is 2015.
Right.
So he got these sometime after the lodge closed, 1960s. And he gave one of the skeletons to his buddy for a Halloween prank. He doesn't know what his buddy's done with it. And then this skeleton left in the barn, he says, oops, I just forgot about that,
What?
I just totally forgot that was out there. Come to find out, the state crime lab identified the remains as a Japanese man who was between the ages of 30 and 45 years old. So who the fuck are these Odd Fellow guys, and why do they have skeletons all over the place?
Please.
The Odd Fellows are a fraternity organization, which of course means that they do some stuff publicly and then they do a whole bunch of shit privately in their little meetings, and it's all secretive and nobody really knows what they're doing, and it's all behind closed doors, and they got their own secret handshakes and shit. So that leaves a lot of room for people to draw rumors up about them, but given the skeletons, it might be valid. Who knows? But so to the public, they're a charitable organization to the community throughout America and have been for centuries. America and the rest of the world. I apologize. I should have said that. In the past, they would visit the sick, relieve the distressed, bury the dead, and educate the orphans.
So would you say that they're like the Masons?
Yes, they are a little bit like the Masons. I say it a little later on, so hopefully I don't repeat myself. But the reason that they got their name the Odd Fellows, or people believe they got their name the Odd Fellows, is because they were a group of guys that were from various trades. So the Masons are just, I'm going to say that wrong. They're just masonry work.
Masons. Yeah, they just did masonry.
Like they're carpenters or whatever. Maybe that's not the same thing. They all kind of shared the same trait, where the Odd Fellows were a group of guys that came from different kinds of backgrounds and different traits and different levels of money, and they all just shared this idea of doing like good for the community and helping out their fellow people. So people thought they were odd for having this good Samaritan bone and wanting to hang out with people of different groups. I guess before it was very segregated. You only hang out with, like, if you work at this factory, you only hang out with people from that factory. I don't know. They just acted like it was odd for other people to hang out together and have different interests. So that's how they kind of got their name, and they were brought together because they wanted to do good for their community. So they were doing good for kind of all the people that really couldn't do for themselves. Sick people, old people, orphans, that type thing. They built homes for the orphans. They had cemeteries for the poor, and the members of the order as well, of course, would partake in these things. And they built schools and homes for the elderly. Today, they still exist. They still donate to a number of groups, including, I believe it's the American Heart Association. For some reason, I don't have American on here. I just have Heart Association. I don't know. Lazy. There's some other Heart Association.
American is a long word.
Yeah. They also donate to youth groups and nursing homes, and they also participate in conservation programs or donate to those programs. The first Odd Fellows Lodge were documented in London in 1730. The fraternity spread to America when the Independent Order of Odd Fellows was founded in Baltimore in 1819.
Wow.
In 1851, they actually started a women's group as well. They say they allowed women to join their group. That's not necessarily necessarily true, they created the Rebekahs, and they had their own separate lodges and whatnot.
Oh.
During the Golden Age, they were the largest fraternity group, but after the Great Depression, membership was no longer a luxury that many could afford. So a lot of Odd Fellows chapters across the country started to close their doors. And that's when people started finding their skeletons in closets, attics, and beneath floorboards of the old lodges. Real skeletons.
Right.
Not just like the secrets that they had. But they would find the letters FLT on these coffins and on the walls, which stood for friendship, love, and truth.
Gross.
Inside interlocking rings on the coffins. They would mark that on all the coffins. They were finding bodies in coffins with these odd markings on it. You know, nobody knew that much about what the organization did in their private meetings. So they're like, what the hell are we looking at? Is this old members? Is this, are they grave robbers? Is this some kind of ritual human sacrifice? What the fuck, man? They also saw images on the walls of like beehives, odd handshakes. I don't know what that really means.
Like air knucks?
Yeah, it's like stuff they had never seen before. That's weird. That's not how you shake hands. But
That's so
they had
funny.
the all-seeing eye, and then they had skeletons and coffins, and they were all like on the walls of the lodges.
Like Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, like Sauron, yeah.
Sauron, yeah. Sweet. I'm digging these guys.
So they're starting all these bizarre rumors about rituals that they perform and whatnot. And nobody outside of the fraternity had ever witnessed any of their rituals. And they also had a pledge as members to forever conceal and never reveal. So that's a huge red flag.
That's like the first rule of Fight Club is that you never speak about Fight Club.
And is Fight Club healthy for you? No, it's not.
Hell to
You know
the
what
no.
is? Therapy. I mean, like, this is a no. No. If somebody's like, hey, man, you want to join my club? Yeah, that sounds cool. I want to hang out with you. Yeah, okay, so you have to forever conceal anything that happens and never talk to anybody about this. Nope, never mind.
I'm good.
Let's
Thank
note
you.
out of that, everyone. It's a cult. If they're asked to do that, it's cultish, and that's enough to get out.
Stay the fuck away from me.
Right.
Culty.
If you can't talk about it with your family, then you shouldn't be doing it. So
for sure.
So I think in the effort to explain what was going on with these hidden skeletons, some Odd Fellows members must have started letting a little bit of information out, like calm down. It's not a big deal. Those skeletons are just a part of our initiation ritual. We put our members in a dark room that's candle lit only, and they have to stare into the skeleton. It's to help them come face to face with their own mortality. That's how we initiate people. I'm sorry. What? I thought we were just doing charity
That's
work.
insane.
Like,
we're going to lock you in this cold, dank basement with a few candles and the remains of a dead guy. And you and him have to have a stare down. What is that? Let's see who blinks first, but the dead guy isn't going to blink first. When you blink first, then what? Snake bites.
Sure.
You have to walk on coals. I mean, this sounds fucking nuts. I don't like that at all.
Yeah. So what happens if they cry like a baby? Then they don't get it initiated.
Yeah.
Then.
So okay, good.
But they were actually like really great with people, and they would have been able to teach the orphans a lot. I mean, like, why wouldn't you? Why is this a part of being in the organization that's all about helping the community? I don't understand why your own mortality. I mean, this sounds like some soul searching type stuff, but this sounds more extreme. You're not telling me the full story of what this group is about then.
These are adults saying, hey, we're doing good for the community, but by the way, if you want to be a part of this awesome good for the community kind of thing, you got to do this really dark shit, and then everything else is cool. What?
No big deal. And does nobody say, I'm sorry, is this a real skeleton?
Yeah.
Where'd you get this from?
Do you think that's the deal? They're just like, oh, it's a fake skeleton. Like, they just have it in their mind that it's a fake ordeal, so they just go through with it, and they're like, yeah, it was fake anyways, who cares? Or do you think they're actually being told, it's John Boy from wherever that we just got?
No. Well, I I don't think they were polite enough to ever know the names of any of their skeletons or their backstories. Or no, I feel like they did not give a shit. It was like ordering them in a catalog, and it's like, I don't care where these came from. But I would assume that they had to tell them it was a real skeleton. I find it more creepy if you don't tell them, or you even tell them, yeah, don't worry, it's fake, no big deal. And then you make them stand there face to face, and as they're staring at it, they're like, this looks really real. Like, that's even creepy.
Yeah, that is really
creepy. I think
creepy.
I would handle my initiations like that. I'd be like, it's no big deal. Just go in this room for a couple of hours, and then they have to they're bored. They've got nothing else to do but stare at the skeleton. So they'll slowly start to piece it together.
Oh,
this is fucking real.
Man.
That's awful.
Do you think they're playing like creepy chant music in the background too?
I hope so. Because I think if it's just quiet, then it's just, oh man, I'd take a nap or whatever after a while. If there was just like no music going on.
This guy looks comfy. I'm just going to cuddle up next to him. Maybe I'll get more popular with the group if I just, snuggled and take a nap with old Creepy Bones, whatever. He's not real anyway, so I'll just,
that is an easy way to handle it, though, is to be like, I can't take staring at this. I'm just going to take a nap instead. It's not like he can hurt me. So they're totally real human remains and that they used. I'd love to find the guy and talk to him about who came up with that idea, that it had to be real, and also where do you buy those? Not that I want to.
Because I'm looking for them.
But this is fucked up.
I've got some bags I need to make for Etsy.
So it's kind of unsure of whether they were donated to the group. Like I said, they didn't really seem like they kept the best records. Or at one point in time, apparently it was possible to buy from medical institutions human remains that they were no longer using. Like bodies that were donated to science. And then they're like, yes, we've studied this one enough. You may have it now. So it's just some old dusty bones.
Are we still talking Iowa?
Yes and no. I'm sure all over the place, but this was like a different time. They got all their bones before it was illegal, I guess. Okay. So as lodges started to close due to low membership in the early 20th century, the skeletons were just left behind,
That's weird.
Pack up all the books and all the cloaks and make sure you get the candles, but don't pack those dusty bones.
I mean, the beeswax, that's just expensive. So hold on a second. Membership was down, but they weren't like, let's think about this. We want more members. Membership is down. Maybe if we got rid of the culty shit that we're doing, maybe membership would pick back up and just go, back towards giving back to the community.
So you telling me you think that if we don't contact the Odd Fellows Fraternity right now and ask to join, that we're not going to get the skeleton ritual?
Did the Rebekahs get the skeleton ritual? Because I think that there's probably a difference in what the ladies got versus what the ladies probably had to wash some dishes.
You're right about that. I totally wonder, and I'd love to, I know it's probably impossible, but if anybody is listening to this and they know someone that was in the Rebekahs Lodge, I'd love to know. I'd love to know.
Yeah.
What the fuck were they doing?
Right.
Did they sit over in their lodge and be like, those fucking men are so weird. Like, we're just supposed to be giving back. Come on, let's get organized, ladies. We have to get the luncheon plan for this week, the lesson for the orphans. We need some cats to go visit the elderly people.
I love them.
And the men are over there fucking playing around with skeletons and drawing beehives on the wall.
I think I want to be part of the Odd Fellows instead of the Rebekahs. I don't want to organize shit.
They were having so much more fun.
I want to stare at dead bodies.
That's probably the only reason the Odd Fellows started the Rebekahs, because they were like, all our rituals and beehive drawing is getting in the way of us actually organizing these events to help the elderly. So we better get some chicks in this group because,
that's funny.
So that, I think the Odd Fellows was like, we need some organization in this place. We don't have enough time for playtime. And so they got the Rebekahs. But I'd love to know if they had some kind of ritual, standing on hot coals or cleaning the skeletons. Ooh. I don't know.
Scrubbing. It was staring into the toilets
at the Odd Fellows Lodge. Okay.
Ooh.
So they did not know who these bones really belonged to. It remains a mystery today. Not many people have figured that out, as I showed you in the few stories over the years where they're discovering these skeletons, and they're not getting a whole lot of information off of these bones of who the actual people are. Some of these skeletons do show signs that they underwent autopsy and that their bodies were prepared for medical educational purposes, and some do not. And there is some records here and there that past lodge members, Odd Fellows, had donated their bodies to the lodge afterwards. They were like, you can throw that dusty medical prepared skeleton out. When I die, you can have my bones, George. So that's dedication. That was nice of them. So I guess they do know who those people are. Sure. That's it.
That's George.
So again, what the fuck was up with this initiation ritual? I don't understand why a charitable organization needs this element in their group.
Wow.
And so they're not talking. They still exist today. They're not going to tell you what's going on or why that exists. To them, it's just like, no big deal. You know, we're just trying to face reality and talk, you know, it's just part of growing as a person. They keep it very like, yeah. No big deal, right?
Yes, super low key.
Everybody thinks of their mortality, right? Not everybody stares at human remains. I mean, like, I just can't believe the idea of tossing people's bones around and then just...
I can't either.
Leaving them behind, too, when you pack up. Like, no big deal. I don't care about those.
They're hanging them up for Halloween decorations. They know that they're human remains. And then they're, like you said, they're just leaving them behind after they leave. These people know that these are human remains. They know that they're not just fake plastic bones that they get at the Dollar Tree.
Yeah.
They didn't have the Dollar. Maybe they did. I don't know how far back the Dollar Tree goes, but they know it's not a prop. They know it used to be a living human being. Man, what is wrong with these people?
Right. So there's all these lodges all over the country that have closed and whatnot. So I want to know more, and me thinking that I'm some kind of true ghost detective here. And I don't mean ghost detective of like trying to prove whether ghosts exist. I'm just kind of on a firm belief. Yeah, they do. And I feel like everybody should be on that. My ghost detective style is I want to ask the ghost questions, and I just hope that they would give me answers. They don't. I mean, I haven't experienced that too often. I have gotten some responses that if I take it out of context or if I just want it to be what I want it to be, I'm like, they just confessed. But honestly, you don't really know. But I can remember... Another sidebar. How many of these do we have? You can edit this out, I guess.
4 left.
Good. Oh, I can do that, I think. So in a Ghost Adventures episode once, they were in Gettysburg, and they were doing one of those... they were doing a live EVP or they were doing an obulus. I'm not sure. I feel like it was more like a spirit box where you actually heard it in their voice, though. So it was either live EVP or spirit box. And they were walking through this house. I don't know. I'm going to say Jenny Wade, but I hope that's not wrong. And they were asking Jenny, like, you know, what do you wish you could have said or something like that? Do you have any last words? Because they were pretty confident they were interacting with her. And she was like, I'm pregnant. Now, there was no documented record that she was pregnant. She did have a boyfriend that had left already for the war. They were supposed to be getting married and whatnot. So, like, my mind was blown in that moment. And I realized that's right. We could be asking them to answer the questions, like going into a place that there was a murder and being like, who killed you? Tell me. And you've told a story before, too. Do you remember her name in West Virginia?
I do. I almost brought her up earlier when we were talking. Oh, it was a wild name. It's like Zelda.
Yeah.
Give me a couple of minutes. I'll think of it.
It's something good like that.
Zona. That's it. Zona Hester Shue. Got it.
Excellent.
She was killed and she appeared to her mother in a ghostly way. Her mother felt so strongly about it that her body was exhumed, and it did turn out that she was murdered instead of died of natural causes.
Yeah, that's a good story. And I remember you were telling me that one as we were walking through the Moundsville State Penitentiary. And we got some activity after you told that story,
yes,
too.
We did.
Very handsy activity.
Handsy for sure, yeah.
So I love the idea of going to locations and asking them the questions that are left as a mystery and trying to get some answer, again, if only to satisfy my own curiosity. So I Googled to see if there were any Odd Fellows lodges that were doing paranormal tours or anything like that. And they might very well exist, but I did not find them. I didn't find one single lodge that was like, we have a paranormal tour or ghost hunt coming up or anything like that. So it was a little like, damn, that's crazy. You know, all this this history, and you can imagine what kind of energies went into these rituals and stuff. And none of these lodges, I see Masonic lodges that have ghost hunts all the time.
Ooh.
So yeah, tell me about it. All that energy and everything, there has to be something to it. So how come there's not an Odd Fellows Lodge? That I found. Let me put that disclaimer out there. If you're listening and you know of a lodge, please tell me, because I'm very interested. What I did find, though, is an Odd Fellows home that is somewhat available for exploration and experience with the paranormal. This comes back to when we were talking about staying at the Lemp and staying at Lizzie Borden's. So this is the Belvoir, if I'm saying that right. It is spelled Belvoir.
Oh, okay.
It's a winery.
What?
It's a winery. There's a winery at a haunted place that the Odd Fellows once owned.
That's two things that I absolutely love, and I'm totally fascinated about exploring even deeper. Wine and hauntings.
As I discovered this place and was reading about it, and then realized there's a Ghost Adventures episode. They call it by a different name, and I think that's why I didn't register, and I don't remember the episode, which is crazy.
I remember them doing an Odd Fellows episode, but I don't remember the winery.
They called it the Odd Fellows Asylum. Totally not what it's called. It's called the Odd Fellows Home, or Missouri Odd Fellows, or this winery, because the winery is the only active business in this complex.
But it's like 4 buildings, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's 3 buildings from what I understand used to be 4. One was demolished.
Oh.
So you can stay here. They have opened a B&B at this winery. So wine, sleeping, breakfast. I like breakfast.
I know you do. I like breakfast
and ghosts.
too.
Well, you're not allowed to eat most places, so that's why I say I get to enjoy it.
And where is this at? Where? Missouri?
This is in Missouri, in the Kansas City area. So it's the Belvoir Winery in Liberty, Missouri, near the Kansas City area, which we've never really been to before.
No, and we'll definitely have to stay away during tornado season, because that is right through Tornado Alley.
Yes, but think about the energies that come in.
The positive spin.
And there's wine there, so like whatever.
Okay, so if the tornadoes are going on, then I just drink wine and I just deal with it.
Right. Wine and demons and ghosts. It's perfect.
Wait, demons?
Hold up. Let me tell
you.
So this is like, I was looking for Odd Fellow lodges to see where they did their meetings and what little weird energies. No, this place is the mega of the Odd Fellows energy. But it's not, in my opinion, not so much because of the Odd Fellows. So though it was created and built and owned and ran by the Odd Fellows, it's more the fact that it was an orphanage, a hospital, a nursing home, and a schoolhouse. And I think those energies themselves is what has built up this place spiritually.
Right.
It's abandoned for a while, and some people came in and did whatever they want in those buildings. And I think that's maybe where the more negative energy comes in. But let me tell you about the complex itself. So it is called either the Odd Fellows Home, or it's called the Missouri Odd Fellows in Liberty. Whatever. It's a complex to begin with, but it started as one building and then built on for the hospital, and then the nursing home and the schoolhouse for the orphanage. The building that the winery is in, it's on like, it's not just on the first floor, but it's in one section of the building that was the administration and orphanage. So some people call it the administration building, but it's also where the orphanage was. So when you stay at the B&B, it's the orphanage mostly that you're dealing with. The owner of the location, his name is Jesse. His last name is Odd. No offense, but I'm not going to pronounce it because I'll butcher it.
So. Oh, I thought you were saying that his last name was Odd. I was like, damn, what a coincidence.
That would be cool, wouldn't it? Nope.
Yeah.
I just don't want to kill that last name. So he thinks that a lot of the spirits are in the part where the winery and the B&B is at is more playful and stuff like that, and more childlike. So that's about what you're going to get there.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. And so the other buildings are supposed to kind of be off limits. But they do paranormal tours or ghost hunts hunts or something like that, ghost tours. So I have a feeling that they do walk you to those buildings. So they say a lot of them are unsafe, so they don't let you go too far in them.
So we get the playful spirits when we're just like hanging out, chill, everything's cool. Then we get the other places too.
Yes. I was driving back from your house, like in New Hampshire when I lived still in Tennessee, and it's a long drive. And I had a camper too, so we stopped halfway, or what was halfway to me. It's got to be halfway in a haunted location. That's my goal.
Yes, yes.
So we stopped in Weston, West Virginia, and that is where the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum is. Now, we were only going to get to do a day tour of this place, but we went on a day that a storm was rolling in. So, and then I think also maybe it was even an off day. I don't know, but it wasn't busy at all. There was nobody there really. So me and my sons got to take a tour of this place with just us and the tour guide.
Right.
And he's doing his regular day tour thing. And he says, this room has got like a dark energy, but I don't talk about that on this tour. And I was like, well, we really would like you to talk about it. And he's like, are you sure? And he's looking at my kids, and I think even my kids said it. They're like, oh no, she's a ghost hunter. We're used to it. Like, yeah, it's fine, sir, please. And he's like, oh. And so he just completely changed his tour talk basically and showed us all points. And he took us out to a building that they're not allowed to take tours to necessarily. And it was one of those situations where we kind of only got to stand in the hallway because the building itself is kind of unsafe and has a lot of flooding and stuff. So you hit it on a good day and you talk to the right people and they kind of give you the inside scoop. And so where am I? Let's talk about this winery real quick. So the Belvoir Winery is on the first floor of the Odd Fellows home. The Odd Fellows home, which is more like a complex, was a significant accomplishment in the early 20th century because it was this example of like statewide home providing care and educating orphans and providing care for elderly members. It was created originally just for fraternity members. So any kind like down on their luck members, if they were in good standing with the fraternity or the organization, then anybody that was widows and orphan children and people that had just like lost their job and whatnot, then this was a place for them to kind of, and then as they got older, so elderly members, this was a place for them to go. There was no other home like this, not in Missouri at least, except for the Masonic home in St. Louis. So they made all these people like, it's like be a part of our organization and then I'll take care of you, because there wasn't statewide like health insurance and stuff like that. The welfare type programs did not exist yet. So this was the way that you got help, is by being a part of these Odd Fellows and Masonic lodges and fraternity and organizations, kind of like committing yourself to them. And it wasn't an all bad thing because this was a good home. There's no records to show you that it was just like disgusting and these people were treated badly or anything. They had normal lives in this home and they were expected to kind of work for it too, so that it wouldn't seem like charity. So it was 240 acres and they would farm the land and try to be as self-sufficient as possible. So it wasn't a bad situation. A lot of the residents, like I said, they're members of the Odd Fellows. So this was like a lot of the members in the beginning were like the founding people of the Odd Fellows organization, mostly in that area, or of the Rebekah lodges, the female lodges as well. Of course, they had to have somebody clean the kitchen.
Oh shit!
So, terrible. So, and there was leading citizens of the small towns across Missouri that lived there. So a lot of the first residents were founding members of the Missouri Odd Fellows and the Rebekah lodges, or of leading citizens in the small towns across Missouri. The profile of the typical resident changed over the course of history, but in the early years, it was mostly children. They had far outweighed the adults. In 1912, 52 residents were adults, 111 were children. Where did they come from, these poor babies?
That's so sad.
Most of the children were orphans, like I said, and the average age of the adult was in the 50s. So by the late 20s, however, the proportions of adults drastically increased. And then from like 1932 to 1933, given the economical issue that was going on, turned to like numbers like 236 adults and 92 children.
Damn. So these people didn't really know where else to go.
Yeah. Again, these had to be like Odd Fellow members, though, that would come stay
Wait,
there.
what about the kids?
They were children of members that had passed, I believe. From what I understand, I might be completely wrong about that, and maybe they were just orphans that were taken in.
They must have been killing their members, because that's a lot of fucking kids.
That is a lot of kids. So maybe I'm completely wrong, but everything that I was reading before, and this came from the winery's website, the way it read to me is that they were all members until later years as the numbers dwindled, because so the people in the 1932 and 1933, they were people that were just kind of down on their luck.
Sure.
It also said that some of these children were not orphans necessarily. They were just children that were like sent to the home because the parents couldn't afford to take care of them anymore, because it was like the Depression and everything. So then social programs started for the poor and the elderly in the 1930s. That's when social programs started. After they saw a need for it, so they started it. And newly developed local nursing homes gave the opportunity for the elderly to stay kind of where they live and around their family instead of having to move. So they started staying in the nursing homes instead of going to the Odd Fellows home. And then by 1951, there were no longer any children at the home either, because they'd started all these social programs and other homes and stuff like that. America was getting on board with taking care of people. So they had a hospital because they had so many elderly people at one point. They start the hospital because they need it. Now, around this time, they open up the hospital. This is what I read. They open up the hospital to the public as well, because they don't have the people coming in anymore. They don't, the space is just being wasted. So they do start to take in people that were non-members.
Just whatever.
Yes.
Okay.
And then operated like that for quite some time, and then eventually just wasn't used anymore. New hospitals were built and whatnot. The hospital itself wasn't ever that very functional. There was something about the hallways being very narrow, and it just wasn't built for a large amount of people. So they weren't taking in a whole lot of people. And as other things started, as the world around them started to develop, this Odd Fellows complex basically wasn't really in need anymore. So the grounds go abandoned, like we talked about before. The winery buys a piece of it. They eventually build the B&B. There is the nursing home is still standing. The hospital and the nursing home is still standing. There is a cemetery on the property.
I was just going to say, where's the graveyard at?
Yeah. They say that there's about 600 people that are buried there.
What is the approximation to the vineyard from the graveyard?
It's in a walking distance, and it can't be like not allowed if you stay there. It's not a building falling down. I'm not going to hurt myself. I bet they let you out there. From what I can tell from like pictures and whatnot, it looks like it's in the middle of nowhere. So you're not going to get a whole lot of like town traffic noise.
Yeah.
The entire time I was reading this and like rewatching A Ghost Adventures just to familiarize myself with it.
I don't mean to jump ahead, but this was one of my favorite episodes because I love a good Billy scream. And this is one of the episodes where he freaks out. When they were in Edinburgh, and that's when I first realized, man, Billy can scream. That is a guy that I am interested in watching more episodes of, because when he freaks out, he freaks out. It's like, it's done. He got shit happening to him there, and then Aaron got put off in some building, hearing shit dropping down in like an elevator shaft. That was a really, really good episode.
It really was a good episode, and I was like, how do I not remember this? But I was so glad that I watched it. But the winery still has a little section, like a museum, dedicated to the Odd Fellows, and they have this skeleton in there that they call George. I don't think 100% that his name is actually George, but he was an ex-member of the Odd Fellows that donated his remains, and I don't know, somehow the winery ended up with them. It's not like it was originally stored at this home, but they got their hands on it.
Right.
And so I don't know if they just have the story of a member named George donated his remains. And so when they got a skeleton, they were like, let's call this one George. So there's questions about that. But inside the B&B, the owner thinks that it's more children and whatnot. People have said that they've seen a child apparition in the areas of the winery and the rooms that they have down there. They have also seen a lady down there as well. And one person said that they saw an older gentleman and he did not seem to have like a good attitude. It wasn't like he was, evil. He was more just like
cranky.
Yeah.
He's like me as a ghost.
Yeah. So that's all in where the winery is at and where George's skeleton is at and stuff.
Wow.
And when Ghost Adventures was there, they were getting responses on their spirit box over that skeleton. They were getting responses. I feel like they were getting a female voice, actually, not so much a man's voice.
Interesting.
Yeah. Apparently, there have been at least a handful of guests that have checked out in the middle of the night from the B&B.
Ooh,
scared.
I love that.
Love it. And then they also report hearing footsteps and they hear voices down the hallway. And they think that they've seen objects moving. And so that's why they think it's like kids like moving stuff around. They seem to believe that the third floor has the most experiences. At the time that Ghost Adventures went, I think the third floor had not yet been renovated. And that's when you see them like busting into walls and digging out all that stuff from the kids.
Was that the third floor of the bed and breakfast?
Yes.
The third floor of the...
Yeah, of the main orphanage building.
Okay.
So if you book a room there, I guess go for the third floor.
Hell yeah.
I bet it'll be the most expensive room.
Of course.
Just like at the Hawthorne Hotel.
Oh my God, I was just going to say that.
The most haunted room is our most expensive suite. Guess who falls for that?
You want to see spectral evidence? Then you need the suite. And I'm like, done, book it.
Done.
Yeah,
Book.
right.
Back to this place. So in the outer buildings, that's where shit gets wild. The owner reports that they've seen shadows out there and that people have reported being like pushed or physically attacked in some way. That some people have reported that they've seen evidence of what they believe were satanic rituals done out there.
Wait, evidence of...
Like shit drawn on the floor. Or I think what they say, a petrified cat.
Oh, come on. Oh, no.
Yeah. Again, winery B&B, not so bad. Creepy children maybe, but only because they just kind of shock you in the middle of the night or something like that. Go out to the other buildings, and that's when shit gets wild. When Ghost Adventures went there on the episode, they caught a mist on camera. It was a really good mist too. Not playing around. It was a good figure on camera. They don't get that too often, and I was impressed with it. They got children singing. That one was really good, and that was in the building that you can stay at. The singing was loud. It's on the rooms that weren't renovated, because I think at the time they went, the winery existed, but the B&B wasn't actually open yet. And so now these spaces that they were investigating in are where the B&B is. That's my impression of it, at least. They got several different voices on their spirit box, from men's to women's, even a child's voice come through in different areas. They got responses on an Ovilus that was calling out the name of a local paranormal investigator that has been to the location a gazillion times. He must live right next door, or he helps host any of their ghost tours, because he's been there like 600 times or something. I didn't even write his name down, but it was correct. I can tell you that. It wasn't any of their crew's name. It was this dude's name. And he says that he's had a lot of experiences there. Saw a guy watching him in a window one time. And so he really feels like the spirits call to him at times. And apparently they do.
Damn.
Like, they had a popular TV show there to impress. And they were like, yeah, where's Nick? Yeah, where's my buddy?
It's interesting that you say that. A lot of people actually ask the Ghost Adventures crew where Nick is these days. So
I said Nick, and I was like, no, don't say that. But I seriously think the dude's name was Nick, and that's why I'm.
Oh, really? That's so funny.
Just all of a sudden, I barely think his name was Nick, though. So, which is also funny that they don't pick up on that, and they don't say do you think it means Nick? Like our Nick Groff. So also on the Ghost Adventures episode, like you said, Billy in all his splendor, he goes to the most fucked up place. How he got picked for that, I don't know. But he
amazing,
just dumb luck.
right?
So they send Billy off to the hospital where the satanic ritual evidence, had been found. So they were like, that sounds like a perfect place for you. Bye, Aaron number 2. And so
right.
Billy goes over there and zones the fuck out on a set of stairs, just loses complete track of time. Of course, his crew doesn't come for him for hours. I just watched a very recent episode, and these 2 episodes, I don't know, I think this was like season 9. I don't know. Maybe I'm really wrong about that, but this was a while ago, and just recently on the newest Ghost Adventures that went out, they sent Billy off by himself again to like the most fucked up place. And then they're like,
they really did. They drew
straws.
straws.
Yeah. And then they're like, in 2 hours, we're going to come check on you. And it's fine. We'll see you in 2 hours. 5 hours later, they're ending the investigation and going to get Billy or something. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So anyways.
It's got to be understood at that point that you can't trust them.
No.
If they say they're coming to get you in like 2 hours, nope. They're going to leave you there all night.
Double that shit. They're not coming for you. But one of the coolest things they got, and I don't know if it's paranormal or if there's a damn animal or something, but it did not sound right. But in the nursing home, Aaron and Billy, I believe, were going up some steps. And just like when we were going down those steps at the Lemp Mansion, they heard some shit and they were like, wait, hold on. And they called it a growl. And so they're hearing it with their own ears in that space. But coming through the TV, it sounded like a funky cough. But they were like, that's a growl. And I think they were concerned about it being an animal or something. But again, to myself, my kid, everybody, it sounded like a gross cough. So either there's a bum living up there or it was a residual or whatever from the fact that it used to be a nursing home. So this one that I didn't even realize exist goes on the list now of must visit. And it's one of those places that it's a hit or miss because it's a hotel basically. And so you may not have full run of the place. You may have other guests there that are not down with, you roaming the place for ghosts.
And it's in Missouri.
But in the end, if they ruin the paranormal experience for us, there should be wine to drink. So we should be okay.
We have to go here. It's done. But it's sad because it's like...
It's quite pretty too.
It is. Well, I don't know about that. I've only seen it at night on the Ghost Adventures show, so I don't know what it looks like during the day.
Well, the B&B that, like I said, I don't think existed when they went there. Just the winery did or whatever. The B&B looks like very nice room, so I think it'd be comfy beds too. So you go and you try to sneak into crumbling old buildings, and then you go back to satin sheets. Not satin sheets, but like nice sheets.
I mean, it sounds awesome. It's just, to me, it's sad because I've looked forward to going back to the Lemp for so long, and we'll be so close if we go to Missouri to visit Odd Fellows that it'll be like, I'm doing the Lemp wrong. I even have a poster of the Bellefontaine Cemetery, and the cemetery was the first place that Wendy and I hit when we first got to St. Louis and got locked into the cemetery accidentally. But the cemetery is massive. It is the largest cemetery I've ever been in. It goes on for miles, and they even give you a map. We know this because we went back the next day when they were open, and we're handing out maps of the cemetery. But when we went there, it was raining. And I think we found the Lemp mausoleum that same time that we were there. It just took us so long to find it. We finally found it. We got out to go and look in the mausoleum, and it was just like the smell of jasmine was just filling the air. And when, earlier on in our recording, you were talking about the Lemp being magical. That whole area was magic to me. That cemetery, that hotel, the mansion, whatever, it was all just so surreal. I really, really, really hope Odd Fellows is the same sort of situation, because in my mind now, Missouri, which is such a weird thing to say, but Missouri is such a magical place to be. Even after getting locked in the cemetery, we did get let out pretty soon after we got locked in. The guy was super sweet, and he's like, yeah, that happens all the time. Don't worry about it. Kind of weird to think about, but still, it was cool. So Odd Fellows is next on the list, I guess. So maybe we'll be doing a live podcast from there next.
Fuck. Yeah. That I'd love that. I fall in love with all these places and their stories. And so it was super easy to suck me in. Wine, ghosts.
Abandoned.
Yeah, like, yes, thank you. I will take that. I hope I don't run into the Satan worshipers, but that's cool. Just not tonight. I'm not really super into it, but it was really cool. And it's so silly because I'm like, I did not know that story about that winery, about that Odd Fellows home. I only knew that I wanted to do something about the Odd Fellows because, again, this is not like a Ghost Adventures fan club podcast, but I can't. I mean, it's sounding that way during this whole thing.
Well, look, I mean, we can't help it that they've gone to pretty much everywhere. I mean, most likely the places that we're going to discuss, I mean, unless we talk about a local residence that they haven't been to, they've gone to the places that we're going to discuss. So
right. So
there's an episode.
Disappointed to find out they went there, but also fun to watch the episode. Oh, but the reason I wanted to do the Odd Fellows is that at Zach Bagan's museum, he has a room dedicated to 2 Odd Fellows skeletons that he owns.
Whoa, that he owns. Of course he does.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh, what about those skeletons? That's crazy. I remember that story. Let me see about that. And that's where it started. And then it just comes right back full circle. He's at the place that I want to go to.
Wow.
And I was like, I just sound like a stalker. All right. So yeah, that's my story. The Odd Fellows, still a mystery. Maybe you can go to this B&B winery and ask George the skeleton, and maybe he'll give you an answer. He was very talkative on Ghost Adventures, though it was a woman actually. So somebody was very talkative.
Yeah.
Maybe they're willing to give up the secrets about this creepy initiation ritual. Maybe you just get to interact with a lot of people that used to live there.
That's right. Ask the ghosts. Is the secret that you do not talk about the secret initiation?
Yeah. And we talked about a lot of locations with tons of sidebars during this. I promise you we'll give you full stories on them. But yeah, so Lemp Mansion, Lizzie Borden, plus. You've heard us talk about the Myrtles extensively.
Oh, yeah.
Do it right, and it'll be the best thing for you. And Iowa is fucked. And
Iowa.
What else? What else did we talk about? We touched on Moundsville a little bit.
A tiny bit.
Yeah, check out that story for sure. We'll post that for you guys on our social media account in
That's a cool
Facebook,
story.
I guess, 'cause that's the only place we could do it. It is a really cool story. Chris tells it very well, just so you know. I got the privilege of hearing that. You won't. You got to watch the YouTube,
that was
whatever.
Pre-podcast days.
Yeah. And if you ever hit the Trans-Allegheny and try to do it before a storm in the middle of the day, and then you'll get like a private VIP tour. So if anybody's had any experiences before we plan an entire trip around going back to Missouri,
we're going.
then if you've too late, we're set in stone. It would be nice if somebody out there listening has experienced this location before, would like to send us information. You may email us at creaturesofthenightparanormal@gmail.com, or you can leave us messages on our Instagram. But Instagram or Facebook, it's both COTN Paranormal on either one of those accounts. All right. Thank you for listening, and rate, subscribe, review, just to build our egos up, please. No, I'm just joking. I mean, really, to just let us know that you're out there. And we really would love if somebody would communicate with us on Facebook and kind of give us some conversation back about the stories that we're telling.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Good night. Bye.
Good night.